In recent years, the appeal of the Clash has been spiraling downwards for most NASCAR fans. Not so much this year. The race was in for a much-needed revival, and that was found by relocating the race entirely. This is NASCAR's Mayhem at the LA Coliseum.
Green flag, we're underway.
Clear, all clear.
Suarez gets a good launch off the corner. Can he clear Ricky Stenhouse? He does. Stenhouse, little bit of contact there, but very quickly the front five goes single file.
Before getting to the main event, NASCAR had to run some heat races as well as a couple of last chance qualifiers. Some were more entertaining than others, with Kyle Busch completely dominating Heat 1 and Ryan Blaney getting the last transfer spot. One of NASCAR's potential stars in Tyler Reddick dominated Heat number 2, with most of the action coming in the back of the pack. The biggest surprise winner came in Heat number 3 when Colleague Racing's very own Justin Haley took the victory. And without a doubt, the most exciting heat race of the day came in the fourth and final one. These guys were doing everything they could to avoid the last chance qualifier, but for some it wasn't enough. Joey Logano would go on to win the final heat race, while some were relegated to running in the last chance qualifiers, where some drivers began getting desperate.
Who did that? The 38, Todd Gilliland.
I'm going to say the 10 did that to himself. I mean, you can't run the left sides of your race car on that hash mark right there and leave enough room for the guy on the outside. There's not enough room.
I did run him into the wall. I wouldn't say he did it to himself, but he did run him into the wall and got wrecked.
The first last chance qualifiers race had your usual suspects up front, but the most surprising was without a doubt Cody Ware. He put together a spectacular performance for Rick Ware Racing Standards, finishing 4th, but when it's all said and done, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and AJ Allmendinger would go on to make the main show. Now, the second and last race for the last chance qualifiers was absolutely insane. In this race, you really saw the best of both worlds. You had both chaos and amazing racing. Now, if you thought Todd Gilliland was the most aggressive, Ty Dillon simply told him to hold his drink. He had been away from the Cup Series for a little while and wanted to show the field he was back, and that he did. He was definitely the main one causing problems, but he was far from the only one. Drivers in desperation mode trying to make those final transfer spots were giving each other the bumper every single lap.
Where do we start here, though?
Well,
The 23 into the 45.
But that came from a shot off of the 21. Go ahead.
everybody after third gets roughed up. They pile it on down into the corner.
Here comes your 42 back in the mix.
And he's got to do everything he can.
Oh, there just wasn't room for Kurt Busch once they got to 2.5 wide.
Ty Dillon's aggression level is starting to get ridiculous because despite being in one of the transfer spots, he gets into Harrison Burton, taking him out of them. But in the end, him getting the lead would ultimately be his downfall. Earlier in the race, Ty Dillon accidentally jumped the restart zone. And on the final restart of this last chance qualifier, he did the exact same thing. Even though he crossed the line first, NASCAR DQ'd him, giving Ryan Preece and Rick Ware Racing their first ever Cup win. Bubba Wallace moved up a spot, and Harrison Burton, in the end, got into the main event. That's poetic justice. And now to the main event of the Clash. 150 laps, a mid-race break coming on lap 75, with only green flag laps counting.
Boy, Reddick with a good drive off on the outside. No advantage there. Kyle Busch roughs him up just a little bit. They stack up at the back of the pack as Reddick tries to get the lead. Nothing there. Kyle Busch the leader. Reddick drops in. Then Haley, Logano, and Suarez.
Judging from the crowd being the fullest it has ever been, I think there's a lot of new fans in LA who were completely unaware of the heat races. Once we got going, most of the field went single file while the two leaders, Tyler Reddick and Kyle Busch, were battling for the lead. Tyler Reddick completely took the lead and didn't look back for quite some time. But there were some other impressive runs in this race, with Justin Haley, Daniel Suarez. Colleague Racing and Trackhouse Racing are showing some promising speed early on. Lap 53 saw the race's first caution of the day, but it would without a doubt be the race's weirdest one. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets turned, bringing out the initial caution, but then some weird breakdowns were happening. Denny Hamlin had to immediately pull off the track after reporting that a power steering belt had gone loose. You gotta remember, this is the next gen's, or excuse me, if you want to get all technical about it, this is the Gen 7's first time in actual race conditions. It's racing, these breakdowns happen, but for the next gen car, this is going to be a whole new learning curve. But what's weird is, he wasn't the only car to break down during this caution break. As a matter of fact, 2 more contenders would do the same.
14 pulled off. 4th place.
Chase Briscoe, what happened?
No drive, same gear, but they didn't do nothing. It made all kinds of rattling noise when I hit the gas.
Uh-oh.
And I was really starting to get excited.
He was
making
rolling.
great progress. Had driven back by Kyle Larson.
And now Tyler Reddick is down on the apron. Our race leader has come to a halt.
What is happening?
Regan?
Mike, the 8 car, Tyler Reddick, just pulled down to the inside of the racetrack, believes he broke the transaxle on that race car. That's what makes the car drive forward, basically.
Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe, who were both inside the top 5, had to pull off the track on the same lap, just seconds from each other, because both were experiencing a driveline issue. I'm hoping this is just a fluke, but with multiple drivers inside the top 5 having to retire due to mechanical failures, it shows in the car's first ever race that these teams still have a lot of work to do. Or perhaps all of this weird chaos had taken place because I had pulled the famous BFM jinx on them. My sincere apologies to Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe fans. Once we get back going, just 11 laps later, we see another caution. While Chase Elliott spinning out on his own is surprising, it's not surprising that it's come in this new car. We saw a bunch of drivers randomly spinning out on their own during these test sessions, and that's exactly what NASCAR and most of these drivers wanted, these cars being harder to drive. Joey Logano and Kyle Busch have now emerged as the main players, but Justin Haley is putting in a spectacular performance. The field gets a halftime break on lap 75 for a concert performance by the one and only Ice Cube. It's 2022, and we're really out here saying that Ice Cube did a concert at a NASCAR race. I'm definitely glad that NASCAR's taking a chance and it's expanding out of its comfort zone a little bit, but it was funny as hell watching some of these NASCAR fans trying to dance to it. Shout out to Viagra Jacket Man. Once we got back going, we saw our longest green flag run of the day since the beginning of the race. Kyle Larson emerges inside the top 2 for just a moment, but the main show lies with both Kyle Busch and Joey Logano. But the 2 highest dark horse drivers in Justin Haley and Eric Jones are putting on a show themselves, for one of them in more ways than performance. You don't normally see Ryan Blaney this heated, but he was to a new level on this caution. Eric Jones ran Ryan Blaney all the way into the wall, forcing him to leave the track. But what gets on the track is Ryan Blaney's Hans device after he threw it at him, and somehow Fox missed that. Blaney is eventually back on track, but for one of the drivers running inside the top 5 in the closing laps, their amazing run would come to a sudden and abrupt end.
This is exactly what we talked about earlier. It wasn't necessarily started with him, it started with the car behind him. He got in line, William Byron got in the back of him. Nothing
Shoved him up into the 5. The 5 thought he was retaliating.
Exactly.
Put him into the wall.
Larson, it was actually your teammate, bud. Justin Haley and Colleague Racing's amazing run comes to an abrupt end, and I'm sorry, I jinxed another one. The closing lap saw Joey Logano and Kyle Busch break away entirely. They were left to battle it out for the victory, and in the end, Giggles brought home the win.
White flag, 1 lap to go, sponsored by Credit One Bank. Joey Logano leads Kyle Busch by 3 car lengths to the checkered flag.
After being a little skeptical about this event at first, I'm actually glad NASCAR did this. It was definitely a risk worth taking. Perhaps stadium racing becomes a regular thing because of this. I'd only give it a max of twice a year though. Everything about this race was so unrecognizable at times, and that's a good thing. We are now officially in a new era in NASCAR's history. And once again, that'll do it for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Flags Matter. Catch you next time.